Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode. Today, I feel so blessed and excited and fortunate. I have automotive royalty on the phone right now with me. Automotive royalty, not on the phone, on my podcast. Oh my gosh.
Wait a minute. Miss Hickey, Miss Kim Hickey, I'm bowing to the queen.
I mean, seriously, you are like the automotive rock star in royalty. So I feel like
it's not about me, man. You know that.
Well, but you do so much for others. And I found out some things about you that I didn't know when I was doing some research for this. And so you truly are like a rock star or jazz star because I didn't know you're a trombonist and you played at Carnegie Hall. I mean, Carnegie Hall, holy cow. I growing up on the East Coast in New York, I've been blessed to be able to be there. But I mean, everybody knows of that, whether you live in New York or anywhere else. So, and Dizzy Gillespie and Dave Valentine, Branford Marsalis, what the heck? Jazz and salsa? Tell me about this.
I don't talk about it much. I mean, periodically there's an interview, a trade magazine interview. And I want to tell that portion of the story because most of us grew up around cars and Frank grew up like in Harlem. It was rough. And my mother,
Hell's Kitchen, AKA.
Yeah, Hell's Kitchen was Hell's Kitchen. But, growing up under sort of a single mom household, my mom, who worked her tail off to keep a balance, when you're growing up in the inner city in the 70s and 80s of New York, while Nancy Reagan is saying, just say no, and there's crack cocaine on the streets. It's just a crazy time. I have to really go back and say, God, that's like another life, but my mom always kept us kids busy. And I started, as all young kids in the class, all the good looking kids get the oboes and the violins and all the big, tall, lanky kids get all the brass instruments. And so it started off that way. And,
I'm cracking up right now because I'm picturing being in music class and how
it was exactly like that.
And then the poor person that got the tuba, like the poor
the sousaphone, right? That big heavy daddy. Oh my gosh. But so it was a way for us. I grew up in New York. It was, you get me reflecting now because I don't think about it often. And I have, you tap the memory. But I literally grew up in this sort of b-boy culture, graffiti and breakdancing. Doing that. And then I'd go and, start honing my trombone. And as like most kids, you just start in school and then I got scholarships.
The 80s was not a big time for jazz, for kids and jazz.
It was it was like, I hear you. I'll tell you about the jazz, but so I actually got scholarships to Hebrew School of the Arts, which was a big deal, right? I was 12 or whatever. And I'm showing up to this Hebrew School of the Arts. It was a very expensive school, an amazing experience. And here's these kids from Russia and Israel. They're like 6 years old and they're virtuosos. And I'm like, oh, I better get my act together.
So I could break dance for you a little bit.
Yeah. So I actually got into music and art. I went to school with Jennifer Aniston and a bunch of talents. It's a drama, theater, arts, music, the famed school. And that's when my world really just went so forward. In fact, I made a decision. It was either football. I played a lot of football, went to football camp and all that, or music. And music was just there. Like it felt good, and felt good, meaning like you would, in the humidity of the summer in the inner city, be in your boxers playing 6 hours to study the, 3-piece movement or whatever you're working on. So it grew. And so I had opportunity. I did Carnegie Hall actually 3 times, A.B. Fisher, Alice Tully. I played with Tito Puente, Dizzy Gillespie. So let me tell you about Branford Marsalis. So the whole Marsalis family is incredible. They're educators at their hearts. The whole family, Delfeo, Winton. Well, back when Bill Cosby, can I say Bill Cosby, by the way? Is that okay?
You can say Bill Cosby.
Back when Bill Cosby, he would come to the drama department and pluck kids for his show out of the drama department. The Marsalis family was plucking kids for the music side. So, I mean, back in the day, it wasn't like, oh, Branford Marsalis. This was right around when Branford was with Sting. Sting changed his rhythm section. He got more jazz oriented. And so my life was music. I mean, it truly was. And so when I went to go audition for colleges that's the next step. I went to University of Maryland, Baltimore County, audition, University of Miami, Berkeley, and Boston. And they wanted me, but my math was garbage. Like, I didn't go to school, right? I was always playing. And so they said, do community college and we'll give you a full ride, get your math up. And I went to community college, Borough Manhattan Community College next to World Trade Center. And I lasted 5 minutes. I mean, I just wasn't for me. I had to put my horn down. So at the time in New York, it was rough. I had nothing really going, not a large family. And I put my horn down, took a hard left. Next thing I know, I'm in the Persian Gulf doing minesweep operations with the Navy.
Wow.
So I was a signalman stationed out of San Diego. It was a great experience. And of course, this is mid to late 80s, did Panama, Guatemala, seen the world. And so, you know what I say, like a lot of folks hanging out with us right now know that, like, maybe it sounds cliche, but it's like, you truly got to trust your journey. And, we always say, like, comfortable, uncomfortable, you got to push yourself, but just every day a new day, man. I so believe in that. And so some of my experiences have certainly been every day a new day.
I mean, I'm just blown away. So you went to the Fame High School. Everybody remembers watching that in the soundtrack from
so much pressure. Oh my gosh.
I can't even imagine. And as a military mom, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service. We have a little bit of kinship with that. And I'm like, okay, so how, because normally, you speak to somebody that, owns shops, and you founded Desert Car Care and you had multiple locations and other things. And the journey is usually, when you speak to shop owners, is they started out tinkering on lawnmowers or their boat motors or doing something with their dad or uncle in the backyard.
I was tinkering, riding a subway train. That's what I was doing.
And then, they just love fixing things, and it's like, I've never heard, well, I played at Carnegie Hall, and then
It's so crazy. I know. It's so crazy.
And then I thought, well, what the hell? Let me fix the car. It's just amazing. And I want to get into your background a little bit more too in that journey, because it's so important. But like, not only so Carnegie Hall and all of that, you have Wrench Nation, right? Wrench Nation TV and radio show and the podcast, and you really care about educating people and bringing them the next step, right? Because you understand more than most people that I interact with, that we're a person, we're not a business. The business owner, the leader, all of that is secondary. I mean, you have to be fulfilled as a person. You have to follow your dreams. You have to live your life every day, or else it's a miserable existence. And somehow you find time to do all that. And you're president of the chamber for Phoenix chapter of the, Phoenix chapter of the ASA Association. You were president.
Yes. So I did a run, with the Phoenix chapter. There's so many things that led up to that, but, and then now I do work with the mechanic ops committees.
And that's national, right?
Talented. That's national, and, we sort of helped some of the heavy lifting for the actual board. But prior to that, before we get in all that, I mean, there's a lot of sections.
Oh, I know. I'm like blown away though, because in between all of this and this story you're going to keep telling, you're also a speaker. You are a moderator for many panels in the automotive industry. You're an author. I mean, it's like, holy cow. So when people say there's not enough time in the day, I want them to be laser focused on what you're saying right now.
Well, I'm time management is critical. Like, and I think the last two letters of time is ME. Is it? Yes,
it is. I like that. That's catchy.
I am, listen, I just came up with that. It's probably out on the internet, but ME is important, and we cannot do jack without us being strong as individuals in the ME. So what does that all mean? Like, we want to help, we want to inspire, we want to be embedded. A lot of the great shop owners in operations across the country, it's what we do. Like, we know that's like we're honored, and it's a part of our vessel. Like, we can give back, but the ME in time is huge. And for me, it didn't happen overnight. If I tell you I'm an 100-hour-a-week guy, it's fact. Like, I'll give you this example. Before I opened my first garage in 1995, I worked for the dealer as a wrench. And I was getting married. I was, buying the first house. I don't have an Uncle Louis, you know what I mean? So I wrenched 50 hours at the dealer. And then I did 36-hour weekends as an EKG tech. I tested for Phoenix Fire. Those are the years where you're not sure. I tell my young 20-somethings, like, listen, it's okay. Dance a little bit here and there. Do the Macarena, do the waltz, get the dancing out so that you can perfect something that you enjoy. And so with that said,
wait, EKG tech on top of everything.
Yeah.
You are the OG for portfolio careers. You are the OG of the portfolio career. All right.
36-hour weekends, right? Just so I could save up a couple bucks for the house. I had a baby on the way. But I also was playing the arena, with Phoenix Fire and taking EMT, fire sciences. So that's why it's important, our business, that we give medical analogies when it comes to underhood repair. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I see these kids now and I love them to death. And I hate that Madison Avenue has labeled everything. I mean, there's some truth to that. We've all sat in those, I did Northwood University's automotive leadership program, and it was a whole day talking about the different demographics and, how we were supposed to design our relationships. But my thing is this: you got to hustle, you got to grind. And I tell a lot of these youngsters now, it's like, what are you doing? 35, 40 hours a week? Well, what are you, retired? Why are you sleeping?
What's that? What is that? Don? Yeah, Don Draper from Mad Men. I love that show. I don't know if you ever watched it, but there's that meme of a picture of him sitting and he's got the cigar and the cigar smoke. He's like, "Oh, you worked 40 hours a week? That's cute." I remember when I had my first part-time job, and he's just he's so cool, that Don Draper, that character.
I mean, I think it still exists. I mean, we're on the topic of sort of work ethic and everything. A lot of our, year one shop owners, some great technicians that go out and get coaching, by the way. It helps because you got to learn cash flow.
Oh, God, I wish I had a coach when I started.
Like my first garage, everybody loved Frank because I was cheap. I was there 20 hours a day. My car lot looked like a freaking dealership with 100 cars, but Frank was making no money, and I missed the first 5 years of my daughter's life. I'm in business, but I was 24, I was 25. And, it's just, when I say coaching, you gotta, that's for real. That my business acumen and the ability to make money in this industry. And it was different back then. There was maybe one coach, 1.2 coaches in the country. It wasn't a thing. We read Mitch Schneider articles, and that's.
Oh my gosh! Do you remember it was Saturday morning, his TV show? It was
I mean, we didn't have internet as it was. Social media for sure was not even in existence. But my point is, it's okay to embrace every single mistake. I mean, that's part of the deal, but to really not repeat it, because shame on us, right? Part of the problem, and I don't raise my hand. It's part of, as men, this is our problem. I need a drink right now. We feel like we can do it all. And we have the answers. And it's and I realize today there's a lot of great forums, Facebook groups, and there's a lot of weaponry out there for folks to get information, but my point is, if you're going to hustle and grind, man, work harder, work smarter, not harder. I mean, that's why when I share my experience, it's not do what I did. It's don't do what I did. So, yeah.
Just crazy. So you go and we're at Fame High School, we're at Carnegie Hall, we're in the Navy, traveling the world, sailing the seas, seeing everything going on. You get married, you have a new baby. You're like, let me just work 24 hours a day to get my business off the ground. And then what happened? I mean, how did you get involved in all of these other things and just?
Yeah. So in between 95 and 2000, a good solid 5 years, I knew enough to grow. I started with a little 2-bay shop. I had like a fishing tackle box for tools. I mean, listen, I remember my first paid gig. My wife and I were standing, we had this little 2-bay shop, dilapidated lift, whatever. We just opened the doors and the lady comes in. She's like, do you work on Saabs? I'm like, oh yeah, me. I work on that Saab. She said, well, the dealer wants 3,500 or whatever the number was to do a heater core. I'm like, oh yeah, we can do that. It's like $1,200. That car was in my shop for a month.
Do you remember those days though, when you're starting and you're so desperate? It's almost like name the tune. I could do what? 8 notes? Yeah. I could do that in 4 notes. I remember Frank in Arizona doing, horseshoes, right? Were popular. And do you remember when the horseshoe, like coat hooks, people would weld them? I was taking that in to help pay the bills because I thought it was helping me pay the bills, not understanding how much the welder costs and the sticks and the electricity. Yeah. Oh yes, I will weld up all these coat racks out of horseshoes and cut them and do all this stuff for $5 because you think in your head it makes sense, right? $5 is better than $0. So forget that I'm tying up now my technician to do this. That's probably costing me $20. If someone came in with a real job, I promise a coat hanger. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Then you get emotional.
Horrible.
The emotional artist comes out in you and you're like, oh, I'm saving the world. And this is my beautiful project. And meanwhile, you look at your bank account and there ain't any ducats in the buckets. I trust me, I've been there, and many hanging now. One thing about our industry, which is really cool, is those that get it are humble, and they've all come from very humble spaces. And that's what makes the industry great. We're all willing to share that with sort of the next generation or the current generation. But, back in the day, I was very lucky and stupid. Luck and stupidity. I don't know if there's any books on that, but
I don't think I have that title in my library, and it's pretty big. Kim,
lucky and stupid. How to define your next failure.
I would be on the front and the back cover for sure, and probably 100 pages in between. I knew enough, like the bones of taking care of people was there. Just like the ability to make money doing that at that time was not, right? So we ended up growing. We went from this 2-bay to this 4-bay. I mean, I had a neighbor. If I wasn't there at 5 a.m, it was classic automotive complex where everybody's killing each other. It's my business. It's my car. And that's my lug nut. Give it back to me. Just stupid stuff. And so if I was there at 5 a.m, you're saying your cousin and where's Frank? I want to see him. I was referred. And then the other guy, he says, oh, I'm Frank. I'll fix your car. Then you call me 3. Hey, you jacked up my sister's car. What did you do? Just all the nightmares. I had prostitutes sleeping in my cars. I had these little mafia groups, the Vietnamese mafia. I had motorcycle gangs. I was just like, I had a pair of tires I busted. You want to talk about a horseshoe moment? Like, I would take anything in. A guy came, he was in a wheelchair. He gets out of his van, he rolls up 2 tires, and he says, hey, can you bust these 2 tires? Like, I didn't even have a tire machine, but it paid $20. Right. So I'm like, sure. I bust the tires, and there's bales of marijuana in this thing. Like, what do you do? I'm serious. And so it's just stupid stuff. But for some reason, and maybe I can't figure that out today, but I had an affinity for people. I really wanted to help. I just was learning to hone in. It took me way too long really to do this. And that's why I say coaching is vital. Like, go to your peer group that don't reinvent the wheel. And so after about 7 years, I could hear the angels singing. We sold the place. We actually made a profit. So my wife and I were like buku excited. And we went to the emerging market of Chandler, Arizona. It was a ton of rooftops. This was in 2002, 2003. And here we are. We're standing in front of this Taj Mahal, this huge brand new shop. And it was like 5 times as much as rent. My wife looks at me. I look at her. She's like, I don't know, honey. This is a lot of money. I think back in the day, nothing against $30,000 a month. A lot of shops may be doing that. But that's about what we were doing. And I'm like, I had no clue of
of an automotive P&L and what rent percentages should be based upon gross sales. And I'm like, well, if I owe them money, I'm still breathing. Life still goes on. Everything should be okay. Let's do it.
It is so funny though that you kind of justify. I know my first shop, it was a one bay little metal building that they used to sell chicken out of, and there was a broken down gas pump in the front. It was on the corridor going into Nogales, Arizona, and I think the rent was $500 a month. And I was like, how am I going to pay that? And then I was like, oh, I think the going rate was $20 for an oil service back then. And I'm like, if I do one oil service a day, I can kill this. And if I can't do one oil service a day at my shop, I don't have any business being in business. Well, boy. And then the tax people came and said, oh, that sign, you have to pay tax on it. Oh, this adding machine and this counter you built, you have to pay tax. And uniforms and, Mitchell. Do you remember Mitchell manuals, like $200 a book? And
oh my gosh.
Can you imagine all the wisdom I had in my young 20s? One oil service a day. That's all I needed. And I could be cheaper than everybody else. I could pay my people better than everybody else and all the things. You mentioned about the people part of it, and it took a while to figure out. What is it about business owners that they feel like if they want to be nice to people, they can't charge them, right? Because that's really what you have to learn part of it. I mean, you have to learn about P&Ls and profit margins and all of that. But I think the biggest hurdle that I see is if you want to be a people person, it's in people's head that they can't charge. Like, I can't charge for that because I want to be nice to people.
Well, listen, this is the gig. It's in our head. Some of us believe as a basic tenet, because we're all consumers, okay? When we open a business, a great part of that business model is to be competitive. So it's a natural, although not truly healthy long-term practice where I did it back in 95. I was trying to, okay, labor rate, that's a thing. Like, what do I charge? And that guy up here at 68, that one, and you start doing that bellwether of what
the
you should
Oreo
be charging.
method. You want to just
no
be that
concept. Fixed expenses, variable expenses, GPs, and all. I mean, we can go on and on. But what I say is accept it. It's like the group hug that you have an addiction to cheap. Raise your hand. I'm cheap. Admit it. And then just raise your dang labor rate. I mean, so it was in my head for years that, oh, no, I can't do that. I mean, you have to design your business with the very first thing. How much do I want to make from this business? Reverse engineer it. And so, for a lot of us that, didn't get that concept, we knew, okay, it was just good enough. I'm going to be everything to everybody. And I'm going to smile. You're
going to be a sob specialist, a sob specialist.
Or I'm going to do one oil change every other day and cut my, I'll make money. It just doesn't work. So there is no holy grail. We all want to be fair, but fair is by way of your worth regarding value. Now, you want to be a $200 an hour shop, you better bring some value to the game, and that's call it what you wish, but the more value you provide, the more you charge. Why is there a luxury market right now that exists? Like, I can go, the big thing now is in the mineral game, right? Like, I can go buy a geode piece of furniture to sit my fanny on and look good because it's geode, it's million years old. Like, people are buying this stuff up. What's the value there? I mean, you can study on it on and on, but the basic principle for just an average shop owner is you gotta design your business to sustain people getting paid well, a little bit of money to go to the community. I think every business owes it to their communities to give back, whether, hey, if it's not financial, it's time. What are we committing in the time to make our communities better? We owe that. Like, we can't just receive that. So how does that look? If I want to pay a technician $100K a year and I have X amount of hours coming into the shop, or I'd like to give myself a raise because my kid now needs 40 grand or whatever for this. Do it, raise the rate, and so in my mind, I was in my own dang way for years. And I suffered, man. Like it suffered. Come on, man. Like you're up midnight figuring out how you're going to pay your electric bill. Why are we suffering? I say this carefully and jovially. If we follow the rate of inflation, like bread, milk, raisins, and everything, we should be charging $300 an hour.
Yep, for sure. For sure.
So yeah, I think we're just in our heads, Kim. And I think, I don't think we design properly. A lot of us are technicians and we get it. Like it's not the technicians, I believe, that are you hear about the consumer saying technicians rip the industry off. No. It's the aluminum siding salesman on the counter. Technicians, by the very work they do, they have to be A, B, C, D. Like you skip a step on an engine install, it's a problem. So the method of A, B, C, D, and E must be included in how you design your business for profitability, for time, for a culture that allows you to be gone and not feel guilty, all of those things. So yeah, I mean, labor rate is a big deal.
It is. People have to get out of their way because, it is harder and harder to attract good people. Where a lot of shops are doing a fantastic job retaining them and really building up their culture and doing amazing things. But you still have to attract people and they're, got to get out of their head of how much they're charging because for some reason, everybody that walks in is like, I can't pay them that. You absolutely can pay them that. You have to adjust your labor rate and your other costs to go with that. But they're going to need to do it because people are not coming in and going to bust their ass anymore for $12 an hour or whatever. Some of these, entry level, they can go to Carl's Jr. for $18 or $20 an hour and work in the air conditioning. Right. And so you're not going to get a kid off the street to come in and bust tires or that you can grow your own and start them under 20 something an hour. Like, why would they do it? So I think we could do, I don't know how many podcasts, right, with all of the decades with you, but one of the things I want to talk about quick because it's so important is health, because anybody that watches you, follows you, sees you at SEMA, sees you anywhere, you are a ball of fire. You are a ball of energy. You're hiking, you're jumping out of place. You look like the epitome of health and good eating and all of that. And you had a quintuple bypass. Is that, haven't even ever heard of somebody having that before you.
It took me a month just to learn how to pronounce it, honestly. Like you hear quadruples, but so I'll tell you the story. I'll tell you the story because in life, every day is a new day, also includes some of the trials and tribulations, and more importantly, how we handle that. When you say, I hike, I ocean swim, I'm up tempo, all those things are true. Never thought there was a problem. I go to SEMA Apex in 2019, and this is the straight and skinny of it. Some of you listening now, I've shared the story with you. So what I noticed at Apex was this phenomenon with all the Asians hanging out over here. And I'm like, okay, I want to get to know those folks in Malaysia. I want to get to know those folks in Wuhan. A lot of our manufacturing comes from that part of the world. And so I did. I spent a half a day hanging out. I get back, long story short, doing the whole Apex thing and a bit of SEMA. I get back in like November, December. I'm like, I had the flu on steroids. I was sick. Now, going back in time, I think I had COVID when COVID wasn't a thing. A lot of you read the stories. Well, COVID had been around a little earlier than what we supposedly stated. I know people that were so deathly ill with a horrific flu type thing. I was just sick months before, and so my wife's like, come on, let's go. Cause I'm not going to the doctor. Give me some vitamins. You know how because you're a man, you don't have to go. Man child right here, man child. And so went to the doc and all this stuff. And they said, well, so this came to January because I started like home treating and I wasn't getting better. It was like 2-3 weeks, body aches, muscle, all this stuff. Couldn't breathe, right? Breathing was an issue. And so I ended up in January, right when this COVID nightmare was sort of announced, maybe denied, who knows, whatever. But I went to the doc and they said, you have Corona. I'm like, I wasn't drinking.
Did it come with lime? That's
Yeah,
all I want to know.
exactly.
Did it come with a lime?
Yeah. And so they said, okay, we can treat it. Here's this. But while we were checking you out, we noticed some things with your heart. I'm like, okay. So I went home with the meds and that night I could not breathe. I was breathing like out of a small Turkish cup or espresso. I mean, I just had no volume of air. And my wife said, no, we got to go. So I ended up at the heart hospital. 3 days later, I had quintuple heart bypass. I had 200% plug. Third was 90, fourth, 60. And the fifth, you're not born with 5. It was growing to compensate. You want to talk about God's work, Angel? Like, I was given such a chance. I should have dropped dead at any moment. These are widow makers. And so I don't want to preach, but I do mention in my circles and as I travel across the country doing what I do, everyone, including us stubborn men, get your echoes done, man, because it's so preventative. Had I not gotten sick, Kim, that's all she wrote, and so, but that's the story there. I recovered. So I was down. I was very lucky because remember, elective surgeries, they were put on hold, and it was like 3 days before they announced. My surgery was February, forgive me for the timeline, February like 28th. And then the whole month of March I was down and I was back running and gunning. In April, it's funny, my cardiologist, he's like this old classic GTO. I was like, you take care of my engine, I will take care of your engine. But he's a godsend. And I just say, I have changed some things. I used to be the guy up at 2 a.m. The kids would go to sleep about 9, families down, and I'm working till 2 a.m, writing or whatever. I don't do that anymore. Like you really gotta take it easy. But yeah, that's mi corazón.
I mean, crazy to think that if you didn't get the virus, whatever it was, and Corona, you possibly wouldn't have made it. That turned out to be a blessing for you.
I mean, we all have our sad stories of good friends that, it's just, so I'm very fortunate, very grateful. They told me afterwards, I got to have like a fruit salad diet. I'm still struggling. I'm still trying to get better.
Nobody growing up in New York lives on fruit salads. That's just crazy. Not it.
I'm addicted to dough. Are you kidding me?
That just wasn't in the. I don't think I saw a piece of fruit until I was 20 or something. There was enough fruit at dinner. That's for dang sure. It wasn't any of that.
Absolutely.
Crazy. Well, I know you're super busy and you were hot in the editing room today and took some time out for me. And I would love to have you back to talk about more things. And I was so excited. I don't think I said your name in the beginning of it. So I will get that edited in, but it's Frank Leutz for anybody that didn't figure out who it was. And I'll make sure that that's in there. But
Kim, this isn't Oprah. This is how we roll. Okay.
It is how we roll. It is how we roll. So, and you and I have very similar, I think, personalities for just.
And I'm honored to spend some time.
It is Please what it is. We are who we are.
Anybody hanging with us right now, you've caught this obviously on the replay. Trust that journey, man, every day. Don't ever forget your business, the heart and soul of it. And if I can help in any way, Kim, reach out. We do a lot of collaborations. There's a ton of things that we still need to work on in the industry and still help out. And so I'm inspired. Sure do. I'm inspired. So thank you, Miss Kim. I've been on the octane, yeah,
baby. So see, I think people don't realize how much we care about giving back and the pains and struggles. People ask like, why are you adding this on top of everything else you're doing? Why does Frank add this all on? We struggled so hard. We made life so much harder for ourselves. It's like, if I can help one person take 1 minute of any of the dumb things I did over the years away, right? Before we learned and evolved. And it's just Incredible, incredible. So I thank you for everything that you do for our industry and
You
all
as
of it.
well.
And
You and the whole ATI tribe. I know a ton of great operators that are part of the ATI tribe. You guys are doing an amazing job. And so honored to hang. Let's do this again.
perfect. Fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Peace,
Stay
guys.
safe, everybody.
Take
Make
care.
good choices and stay inspired.